everyone. So I gotten a question about unifying polarities and what that means. So let's talk about that, because I believe it's going to be one of the biggest things that the Lightworkers will be doing in the next couple of months. In order to have that conversation, we have to kind of talk about how dimensionality works in terms of both energy and consciousness. So let's take fifth dimensional thought and how things work in the fifth dimensional. All things are light, and in 5D, the light is coherent and cohesive. It's above duality. It's beyond polarity, all right? So you're in all people are in you, you are one, there's only one person in the universe, or actually one soul, of which we are all a part. This light, that is all coherent and cohesive, travels down to 4D, and 4D is like a lens that sits over 3D. And just like a prism refracts light to create rainbows or different colors of the rainbow, 4D refracts this light and creates duality, or more discrete bandwidths or frequencies of light. In 4D, you will find, let's take the gods and goddesses as examples of how this works. And let's take Sekhmet, since we just came on the Lion's Gate. Sekhmet is the lion-headed Egyptian goddess. She is one of the oldest goddesses in the Egyptian pantheon. She is a solar deity, and she is in charge of both plagues and healing. Why? Because in 4D, health is a spectrum, and poor health is not different than good health. It's all on a spectrum of health, of which she is in charge of. Now, she's in charge of other things, but just let's look at that. So the gods and goddesses in 4D are in charge of a spectrum or a bandwidth that includes certain responsibilities. Psychologically, we could say certain characteristics or traits, all right? Pallas Athena, she's the one who holds the scales of justice. She's the one who teaches us how to balance between emotion and logic. All right, and this is a mental process. She has a bandwidth that she is in charge of. So in 4D, we have polarity in that we have the positive end of the pole and the negative end of the pole, but it works a little differently because it's still seen as a spectrum, as a bandwidth. In shamanistic terms, a shaman will work with dark and light. Why? Well, it's kind of like homeopathy. You know, sometimes you have to prescribe the symptom or prescribe negative energies to clear or to remove a negative energy. That's how it works. It's not considered bad. It's just a part of the spectrum. Coming down to 3D, this light refracts even more, and now we're in duality and we're in polarity. There's us and them. That's good and bad. Psychologically speaking, we talk about rigidity of belief, or absolutes, right? I always, or I never. That's third dimensional. Good people do this and bad people do that. It's not taking context into account. You could say, oh, it's bad to kill people. That's duality, right? But what if you're a soldier on a battlefield? What if someone's coming at you with a machete? What if you're dying of cancer, the pain is horrendous, and you have 4 hours to live? So everything is contextually driven. In order to get up into 5D and maintain that level of consciousness, you have to unify the polarity. You have to go into 4D and notice this is a range and spectrum of consciousness. This particular bandwidth has a purpose in that darkness is not anything other than a quality of light, okay? Can't say, oh, it's bad. It's a quality of light. It's together with light. It's just a form. It's a characteristic of light. So what's coming for us in the next few months is the ability to detach from that, oh, that's so terrible, and move into unifying the polarities. How would you do that? Well, let's take the mask example, because many of you have heard me talk about that before. If you're losing your mind over wearing a mask over seeing people not wearing a mask, you're in polarity because they're wrong, they're bad, it's whatever. Moving into 4D, you have to understand the narrative that is happening, all right? In 3D, let's take someone who's not wearing a mask. That person is bad. They only think about themselves. They're selfish. They're lazy. They're stupid. They don't listen to science, right? Now, that's not what a lot of the people who don't wear masks, that's not the narrative that they're saying. They're looking at the people who are wearing the masks and saying, you're driven by fear, you're a sheeple, you don't question anything, you're giving your rights away and you're not even thinking about it. So everybody is doing what they think is right, for the most part. The narrative when we're in 3D is to paint the other as bad, wrong, stupid. Going up to 4D, you can see both sides of this. And both sides have some truth on it. No one has all the truth. And both sides are not completely true. When you go into 4D and unify this, you will see that everyone's trying to do the right thing and they feel very passionate about this because they are looking at a perceived threat. The masked people are saying to the, looking at the non-masked people, and they're like, you're bad, you're wrong, you don't listen to science. But they're moving from an altruistic place of trying to protect the most vulnerable in society, all right? When you can understand and see that bandwidth and understand that both sides have reasons for why they think the way they do, and you can have compassion for that and understand that, you're unifying the polarity. This is what we're going to be doing even more, especially as the election comes up. So what I would tell you is the way that you can get into starting to unify the polarities and understand this so you're not suffering, because let's face it, if we continue like this, then half of the country is going to lose their friggin' minds come election, no matter who gets elected. So let's avoid that and say, okay, whatever side you're on, look at the other side and try thinking, why are they thinking like this? What are they thinking like that? Why? There's a reason for it. It's not that they're stupid and dumb and they don't listen to things. They have good and valid reasons, both sides do. And I can tell you as a psychotherapist, is the week I worked the most in my private practice was when Trump got elected. People lost their frigging minds. And what happened with that was that many people encountered a reality they did not think could possibly happen. But that was because they were so far removed from what other people were experiencing, they couldn't understand why they would have voted like that. Now, once you start talking to people and you start getting in their heads and you understand and ask questions, not through what a jerk you are, but just being curious and wanting to understand, you will learn some very interesting things. This is what we are charged with. So what I would tell you is, don't believe anything, just think about it that way and be curious as to the effect it has. If it has a good effect, then use it and you will unify the polarities and you'll expand your consciousness. If you're getting triggered about any kind of situation that's coming up that's not abusive, not criminal, not, people actually intentionally hurting people for no good reason other than enjoying it, then you're in polarity. You need to look at that so you can even out the polarities and see it's in a spectrum. So I hope that answers your question, and as always, you guys, have a great day. Thanks.